Hey everyone, ready to dive into Meta as an investment? We're going to cover a lot today.
Yeah, lots to unpack.
But don't worry, we'll break it down so you're not overwhelmed.
That's right, nice and easy.
So we'll look at Meta's history, their finances, where they're going strategically, who they're up against, and of course, what it all means for you as an investor.
It's a company that always keeps things interesting, that's for sure.
No kidding. So let's rewind back to 2004.
Okay.
Facebook launches, Mark Zuckerberg's at the helm, and, well, the rest is history.
Right.
But then, fast forward to 2021, and boom, the name changed to Meta.
Big change.
That was a sign they were aiming for something much bigger than just social media.
Yeah, the metaverse, right.
Yeah.
Blending augmented and virtual reality is supposed to change how we live and work and connect.
Exactly. That's the future they're betting on.
Makes sense?
And they've got this incredible foundation to build on, right? Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Oculus platforms, billions of people use every single day.
Oh, absolutely. Billion.
Which means tons of data, crazy user engagement, and of course, ad revenue.
That's still their bread and butter.
Okay, so let's talk numbers. What's the financial picture looking like for Meta?
Well, in 2023, they brought in a massive $134.90 billion in revenue.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, a 16% jump from the year before.
Wow, 16%. That's impressive, especially for a company that size.
It is most of that. About $133 billion came from what they call their family of apps, so all those social media platforms.
Right.
Their Reality Labs division, the one working on the metaverse, brought in about $1.89 billion.
So even with all the metaverse hype, it's clear their core business is still where the real money's at.
Definitely. But that investment in Reality Labs shows they're serious about this long-term vision.
And speaking of shifts, remember how Meta went through a year of efficiency in 2023?
Yeah, they streamlined things, cut their headcount by a significant 22%.
Wow.
They ended the year with 67,317 employees.
That's still a ton of people, but a big drop from the previous year shows they're focused on staying lean and profitable.
Definitely a move investors like to see, and they also started a cash dividend program early this year.
Right. Starting back in March, they're paying out 0.50 cents per share every quarter, so that adds up to $2 annually.
A nice bonus for shareholders.
For sure, signals confidence in their ability to make consistent cash, even while making these big future-focused investments.
That's right.
Okay, so they've got the cash, they're placing big bets. But what's the strategy behind all of this?
Well, Meta's got a two-pronged approach. On the one hand, they're always working to make their existing apps even better.
Right.
Improve that user experience, keep people engaged, coming back for more.
Makes sense. More scrolling, more ad revenue.
Exactly. So how they boost engagement content recommendations are huge.
Interesting.
They want to make sure you, the user, are seeing stuff that's actually relevant to you across all their platforms.
Right, I've noticed that.
It's a multi-year effort, but they're already seeing positive results.
Like what kind of results? Give us the details.
Well, for instance, Facebook's unified video player has led to a 10% increase in how much time people spend watching videos.
Really?
Yeah, and they're testing out a full-screen video tab, almost like a mini YouTube inside Facebook.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's pretty cool.
So it's all about making video more central to the Facebook experience.
Interesting. What else are they doing?
There's more. They're refining that newsfeed algorithm, show you things you actually care about, and growing Facebook groups.
Makes sense.
It's all about tailoring the platform more to you, your preferences, your interests.
So that's one part of the strategy, keeping the existing platform strong. But then there's this whole metaverse thing, and that feels like a whole other ball game.
It is, and Meta's upfront about it being a long game. We're talking 5 to 10 years before they think the metaverse really takes off.
Wow, so far out.
But they're not just throwing money around randomly. They've got a strategic approach.
So how are they tackling this massive thing? I'm all ears.
Okay, so within Reality Labs, they're focusing on 3 main areas: virtual and mixed reality, augmented reality, and social platforms.
Ah, so it's not just about VR headsets then.
Nope. In fact, about half of Reality Labs' budget goes to augmented reality. That's where digital stuff is integrated into our everyday lives, but without needing those bulky headsets.
So they're thinking beyond gaming and entertainment.
Way beyond.
That's pretty amazing. So we've got engagement on existing platforms and this long-term vision for the metaverse. What else is in the mix?
Don't forget artificial intelligence. AI is becoming super important for Meta, both behind the scenes and for features users actually interact with.
So where's AI fitting into all this?
First off, they're committed to developing AI responsibly. Right. They've got these 5 key pillars guiding their approach, focusing on things like fairness, transparency, accountability.
Yeah, that's important with AI.
It is, and their Meta AI suite of tools is gaining traction, becoming an industry standard.
Okay, so they're taking the ethical stuff seriously, but what are they actually doing with AI, like practically?
Tons of things. Content recommendations, ad targeting, safety measures, you name it.
Wow.
Their large language model, Llama, that's also getting super popular. And there's Meta AI, which is catching on with users, and AI Studio. That one's more for businesses.
So they're really going all in on AI.
They are. It's woven into basically every aspect of their operations, and they're always finding new ways to use it.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Meta internally, but where do they stand in the broader tech world? Like, who are their biggest rivals?
Well, in the social media landscape, Meta is the giant.
For sure.
Over 3.8 billion people use at least one of their apps every month.
That's like half the world.
It is. They tracked it with something called family metrics, which accounts for people who have multiple accounts on different platforms.
Right.
They admit it's not perfect. There's a possible margin of error of around 3%.
It's good. They're transparent about that. But even with that margin, they're still the biggest by far. So who else is even in the running?
Well, they've got competition. TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest. They're all fighting for those users and that ad revenue.
It's a crowded space, and it's not just other social media companies they have to worry about, right? The whole advertising market's getting more competitive.
Absolutely. They're up against giants like Google, Amazon, Apple, all expanding their ad businesses. It's a tough fight for those dollars.
So how's Meta adapting to all this pressure?
They're constantly innovating, refining their approach. One key focus is making ads more relevant and measurable, especially on platforms like Reels, their answer to TikTok's short-form video craze.
Reels, I see.
They're always tweaking things to make sure those ad campaigns are as effective as possible.
Sounds like a never-ending race to stay ahead.
It is. Social media and advertising are always changing. Meta can't afford to stand still. Got to be adaptable, responsive to new trends and challenges.
Okay, so we've looked at history, financials, strategy, the competition. Now, the big question, is Meta a good investment?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And it's not a simple answer, but let's start with Meta's strengths.
Okay, hit me with the strengths. What makes them stand out?
Well, first and foremost, that massive global reach and engagement across their platforms.
Right. Billions of users.
Exactly. That's a huge plus for investors. Plus, their strong financial track record, revenues growing, healthy profit margins.
It's a good start.
They're forward-thinking, too. Those big investments in the metaverse and AI, that positions them well for future growth.
Right.
And don't forget their history of innovating, adapting. They've proven they can evolve and stay relevant in a market that's always changing.
Yeah, they've been around a while.
They have, but of course there are risks too. No investment's perfect.
That's true. So what should investors be cautious about?
One big one is regulatory scrutiny. Meta's constantly under the microscope, especially when it comes to data privacy and how they use user information.
Yeah, that's a big one these days.
It is. Another risk is their reliance on ad revenue.
Makes sense.
Any economic downturn or big change in user behavior could hurt their earnings.
So they can't just rely on Facebook and Instagram forever.
Exactly. That's where the metaverse and AI investments come in. They're hoping those create new revenue streams and keep them growing.
But those are long-term bets. No guarantee they'll pay off.
True, that's the risk with any innovation, but Meta's got a history of successful innovation. They've adapted to new platforms and technologies time and again.
From mobile to video.
Exactly.
So they've got a fighting chance, but what about the rewards? What's the upside for investors who believe in Meta's vision?
The potential is huge. If the metaverse works out, they could be at the forefront of a totally new way we interact with tech, connect with each other, even do business.
That's a big if.
It is, but Meta's positioning themselves to be a leader in this new era.
Okay.
They're investing heavily in the hardware, the software, the social platforms that'll shape that metaverse experience.
It's like science fiction becoming reality.
It is, and it's not just the metaverse. AI is also a big part of their plans.
Right. We talked about that.
AI could change everything, how content's created, how ads are targeted, user safety, even healthcare.
Wow.
And Meta's at the forefront of AI research and development.
So there's a lot to be excited about, but let's bring it back down to earth for a sec. What should investors be watching right now to gauge how Meta's actually doing?
User growth and engagement are always key for social media companies, so investors will want to watch their monthly and daily active users.
Yeah.
And their average revenue per user.
Makes sense.
These tell you how healthy their platforms are, how sticky they are.
It's all about keeping those users coming back.
Exactly. And then there's the financial performance, revenue growth, profitability, cash flow.
Those are always important.
They are. Investors want to see continued strength in that core ad business, but also monitor the progress of those newer initiatives like Reality Labs.
Yeah, got to see if those actually start making money.
Exactly. It's about balancing the present and the future.
It is. That's what makes Meta so interesting. They're a proven success story, but also making big, risky bets.
It's a fascinating mix, for sure.
It definitely is. But let's switch gears for a moment and talk about social responsibility. That's becoming more and more important to investors.
It is, especially with a company as influential as Meta. Their actions have a huge impact on society.
Absolutely.
Investors need to understand their values, how they approach things like privacy, content moderation, the responsible use of AI.
Yeah, it's not just about profits anymore. Investors want to know their money's going to companies that align with their values.
Exactly, and this is especially true for younger investors. They're much more socially conscious.
Right.
They want to invest in companies that are making a positive impact on the world.
So how does Meta measure up in that regard? What are they doing to show they're committed to social responsibility?
They've made some good progress in recent years, especially around privacy and content moderation.
Right.
They've implemented stricter policies, invested in technology to detect and remove harmful content.
That's good.
They even created an independent oversight board for external accountability.
Wow, that's a big step.
It is, but there's always room for improvement.
Of course.
They're open about that. They know there are ongoing challenges.
Right.
And they're constantly working to improve. They release transparency reports, engage with stakeholders, participate in industry initiatives to tackle these issues.
It's good to see them being proactive and transparent.
It is, but investors need to stay informed too. Hold companies accountable, read those reports, participate in shareholder dialogues, make your concerns known.
So investors have a voice and can use it to push companies towards more responsible practices.
Absolutely. And that's good for everyone in the long run. Companies that prioritize social responsibility build stronger brands, attract better talent, earn the trust of consumers and investors.
It's a win-win.
It is. But let's be real, a company like Meta will always have its critics, its controversies.
That comes with the territory.
It does. They operate in a complex, often controversial space, but what matters is how they respond to criticism, learn from mistakes, demonstrate a commitment to getting better.
Well said. So for those thinking about investing in Meta, it's about weighing all these factors, the financials, their vision for the future, the risks involved, and their approach to social responsibility.
Exactly. It's multifaceted, but by understanding the full picture, investors can make informed choices that match their values and goals.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's one more crucial piece we need to discuss: corporate culture.
You're right. Culture often gets overlooked, but it's the foundation for everything else.
Absolutely.
It shapes decisions, how employees are treated, how a company interacts with the world.
So tell us about Meta's corporate culture. What are their values, beliefs, leadership style?
Meta has a very distinct, some might say controversial, culture, often described as fast-paced, data-driven, very demanding, big emphasis on innovation and risk-taking.
Sounds intense.
It can be, and it's not for everyone, but it's also attracted some of the brightest minds in the industry, led to some groundbreaking stuff.
So there are trade-offs.
There are. Investors should be aware of the potential downsides, too. This kind of culture can lead to burnout, high turnover, even ethical lapses if not managed carefully.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
It is. So is Meta doing anything to address these issues, create a more sustainable and ethical work environment?
Good question.
They are making efforts. In recent years, they've launched initiatives to promote employee well-being, diversity and inclusion, ethical decision-making.
Sounds promising.
They're also trying to improve internal communication and transparency.
So they're at least aware of the challenges and trying to fix them.
They are, but like any cultural shift, it takes time. Investors should monitor these initiatives, see if they have a real impact on employee satisfaction and the company's ethical performance.
So it's an ongoing process.
Always. Culture's always evolving, needs to be nurtured and monitored, but it's crucial for long-term success, something investors should pay attention to.
Absolutely. Okay, we've covered culture and social responsibility. Now let's not forget the competition.
Right. No company operates in a vacuum, and Meta is facing some serious competition.
It's a battle for users, for data, for those advertising dollars.
Exactly.
So who are Meta's main competitors and what are their strengths and weaknesses?
Well, on the social media front, you've got TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest,
Right. The usual suspect.
Each one has its own appeal, its target audience.
Like TikTok's the hot new thing, right? Super popular, especially with younger users.
Their short videos are really engaging, and they've attracted a global audience.
Is that a major threat to Meta?
It could be. Meta launched Reels on Instagram to compete, but it's still early to say if they can really keep up in this fast-moving space.
What about Snapchat? They've always been big with teens and young adults.
True. Their disappearing messages, augmented reality features, those have resonated with younger users.
Yeah, I can see that.
They've carved out a niche that Meta would love to tap into.
Right.
And then you've got Twitter, more focused on news and commentary.
I use Twitter every day. It's great for keeping up with current events.
Exactly. Twitter's known for real-time information, public discourse.
That's their thing.
It is. They've got a loyal base of users who care about what's happening in the world. And that's a different type of engagement that Meta hasn't quite figured out.
So it's a multi-front battle for Meta, each competitor bringing something different to the table.
Exactly. And it's not just other social media platforms they have to worry about.
Right, the whole advertising market.
Exactly. Their core business relies on those ad dollars, and that market's getting more and more crowded, with Google, Amazon, Apple, all in the game.
So there's a lot of pressure on Meta.
There is, but they've got a lot going for them, too.
They do. It's a fascinating company to follow. Lots of potential, but lots of challenges, too.
For sure, and that's what makes it so interesting for investors.
Exactly. Well, this has been a great overview. Thanks for breaking it all down.
My pleasure.
But we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to discuss.
Lots more.
So stick with us. We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into Meta.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's like walking a tightrope, keeping the current empire going while making these big, future-focused bets.
For sure. And that's where good leadership and strong corporate governance come in.
Right. Investors want to feel confident that the company is being steered in the right direction.
Absolutely. So does Meta have that?
Yeah.
What's their governance like?
Well, they're actually pretty transparent about it. They've got a really robust shareholder engagement program, actively seek feedback from investors.
So they actually listen to what their investors have to say.
They do, and their board of directors, which is mostly independent directors, has specific committees for key areas.
Like what kind of areas?
Auditing, risk oversight, privacy, compensation.
So there are checks and balances in place.
Yeah, this helps make sure that there are...
So it's not just Mark Zuckerberg calling all the shots.
Well, he does have a lot of influence because of his controlling stake.
Right.
But there are systems in place to make sure other voices are heard and decisions are made in the best interest of all shareholders.
That's good to hear. But even with good governance, there are always risks with any investment, especially in a fast-moving industry like tech.
Oh, absolutely. And Meta's very upfront about the risks they face. In their annual report, they list a whole bunch of risk factors for insiders to consider.
Like what kind of risk factors? Give us some examples.
Well, they range from regulatory and legal challenges to competition, data security, and the uncertain adoption of new technologies.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's important to be aware of.
Absolutely. So can you give us some specific examples of those risks?
Sure. One big one is the increasing regulatory scrutiny around data privacy and content moderation.
Right. That's been a hot topic.
It has. Governments worldwide are cracking down on how companies collect, use, and protect user data, and Meta's right in the spotlight.
Yeah, I can see how that could be a major headache for them.
It is. Another risk is their dependence on advertising revenue.
Right, we talked about that earlier.
Any economic downturn or major changes in user behavior could really impact their earnings.
So they can't just rely on Facebook and Instagram forever.
Exactly. That's where the metaverse and AI investments come in. They're hoping those will create new revenue streams and help them maintain their growth.
But those are long-term bets. No guarantee they'll work out, right?
That's the risk with any innovation, but Meta does have a history of successful innovation. They've consistently adapted to new platforms and technologies.
Like we were saying, from mobile to video.
Exactly.
So they have a chance. But what about the potential rewards? What's the upside for investors who buy into Meta's vision?
The potential is huge. If their metaverse ambitions pan out, they could be leading a paradigm shift in how we interact with technology, connect with each other, even do business.
It's like science fiction becoming reality.
It is. Imagine a world where our physical and digital lives are seamlessly blended.
It's mind-blowing.
It is. And Meta is positioning itself to be a leader in this new era. They're investing heavily in developing the hardware, the software, the social platforms that will shape that metaverse experience.
But it's not just about the metaverse, right? AI is a big part of their future plans too.
Absolutely. AI could revolutionize everything: how content is created, how ads are targeted, user safety, even healthcare.
So they're really covering all the bases.
They are, and they're at the forefront of AI research and development, which is exciting.
It is, but let's bring it back to the present for a minute. What are some key metrics investors should be watching right now to see how Meta is actually performing?
User growth and engagement are always crucial for social media companies, so investors will want to keep an eye on their monthly active users, daily active users, and average revenue per user.
So it's all about keeping those users engaged and coming back for more.
Exactly. Those metrics tell you how healthy and sticky their platforms are.
Right, but what about their financial performance? What numbers should we be paying attention to?
Revenue growth, profitability, cash flow, those are always important indicators. Investors want to see continued strength in their core advertising business while also monitoring the progress and monetization of their newer initiatives like Reality Labs.
So it's about finding the balance between the present and the future.
Exactly. That's what makes investing in a company like Meta so interesting. It's a blend of proven success and ambitious innovation.
It's definitely a wild ride. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about something that's becoming increasingly important to investors: social responsibility.
You're right, that's a key consideration. Especially with a company as influential as Meta, their actions have a huge impact on society. Investors need to understand their values, how they approach issues like privacy, content moderation, and the responsible use of AI.
So it's not just about profits anymore. Investors want to make sure their money's going to companies that align with their values.
Absolutely, and this is especially true for younger generations of investors. They're much more socially conscious. They want to invest in companies that are making a positive impact on the world.
So how does Meta measure up in this regard? What are they doing to show their commitment to social responsibility?
They've made some good progress in recent years, particularly in areas like privacy and content moderation.
Okay, good to hear.
They've implemented stricter policies, invested in technology to detect and remove harmful content, and they even established an independent oversight board for external accountability.
Wow, that sounds like they're taking it seriously.
They are, but there's always room for improvement.
But of course, no company's perfect.
And they're open about that. They know there are ongoing challenges and are continually working to improve. They release transparency reports, engage with stakeholders, participate in industry initiatives to tackle these issues.
It's good to see them being proactive and transparent about their efforts.
It is, but investors also need to stay informed and hold companies accountable, read those transparency reports, participate in shareholder dialogues, and make your concerns known.
So investors have a voice and can use it to push companies toward more responsible practices.
Exactly, and that's good for everyone in the long run. Companies that prioritize social responsibility tend to build stronger brands, attract better talent, and earn the trust of consumers and investors.
It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, it is. But let's be real, a company like Meta will always have its critics and controversies.
That comes with the territory, being such a big player.
It does. They operate in a complex and often controversial space. But what matters is how they respond to criticism, learn from mistakes, and demonstrate a commitment to getting better.
Well said. So for those considering investing in Meta, it's about weighing all these factors: the financials, their vision for the future, the risks involved, and their approach to social responsibility.
Exactly. It's a multifaceted decision. But by understanding the full picture, investors can make informed choices that match their values and goals.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. But remember, Meta's ambitions go way beyond just social media. Those investments in virtual reality and augmented reality, that tells us they're really serious about shaping how we interact with tech in the future.
It's all about the metaverse, right? Creating those immersive digital spaces where we can work, play, hang out, shop. It's a big idea.
It is. It's captured a lot of people's imaginations, but it also comes with some big challenges and uncertainties.
For sure. One of the biggest is the tech itself, building those truly immersive virtual experiences that requires huge leaps in hardware, software, network infrastructure.
Yeah, we're talking powerful computers, super fast internet, VR headsets that are actually comfortable to wear for a long time.
Exactly. And while the tech is getting better, VR headsets are becoming more affordable, user-friendly. It's still not quite ready for prime time.
And then there's the content. You need those compelling experiences, applications to actually draw people into these virtual worlds.
Absolutely. Meta's spending a ton on developing games, social experiences, even work tools for the metaverse. But it's early days. We'll see what catches on.
And what about privacy and security? The metaverse is going to generate even more data about us. How will they protect that?
That's the million-dollar question. Meta needs to address that head-on. They'll need super strong privacy and security to build trust with users and make sure that data is handled responsibly.
It's a lot to figure out, but if anyone can crack the code on the metaverse, it's probably Meta, right? They've got the resources, the talent, the ambition.
They do have the potential, but they're not the only ones in the race. Other tech giants like Microsoft, Apple, Google, they're investing in VR and AR too, plus there are tons of startups trying to get in on the action.
So it's a crowded field.
Very much so, and always changing. Hard to say who will come out on top, but it'll be exciting to watch.
Definitely one that investors will be following closely. So as we wrap up our look at Meta, what are the key takeaways for our listeners thinking about adding this company to their portfolio?
I think the biggest thing is that Meta is a company in transition. They're still the kings of social media, but they're also making these big bets on the future with the metaverse and AI.
They're playing the long game while still dominating the current one.
Exactly, and that's what makes them such an interesting investment. They offer potential for short-term gains and long-term growth, but there's also that risk, that uncertainty.
So it's a calculated gamble.
In a way, yes, but one that many investors are willing to take. Meta has a track record of innovation. They've shown they can deliver, and they have a vision, whether it becomes reality, that's still up in the air, but it's a journey a lot of people want to be part of.
It's been a great conversation. Thanks for sharing your insights with us.
My pleasure. Always fun to talk about a company that's pushing the boundaries like this.
And for our listeners, remember to do your own research, weigh the risks and potential rewards, and make smart decisions that align with your own investment goals.
Couldn't agree more. And never stop learning. The tech world is always changing. So stay curious, stay informed.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us today. Until next time.